The airport was busy that afternoon. People rushed from one gate to another, dragging their suitcases behind them. Announcements filled the air. Flight 247 is now boarding at Gate 5. Families hugged each other. Businessmen checked their watches. Everything seemed normal, except for one woman. Sarah stood alone near Gate 12. She wore a long blue coat and held a small black handbag close to her chest. Her hands shook slightly. Her eyes kept moving, looking left and right, as if she was searching for someone or hiding from someone. Officer Daniels stood near the security desk, watching everyone pass. He was a tall, strict man with sharp eyes. Nothing escaped him. He noticed Sarah immediately. Why is she so nervous? He thought. Maybe she is hiding something. He crossed his arms and kept watching. Sarah checked her phone again and again. She wiped her hands on her coat. She took a deep breath, but it didn't seem to help. Officer Daniels touched the radio on his shoulder. "I see a suspicious woman near Gate 12. I am going to check her out," he said. "Copy that," the voice replied. Slowly, Officer Daniels started walking toward Sarah. He didn't take his eyes off her. Every step he took, his suspicion grew stronger. Sarah didn't notice him coming. She was too busy looking at the arrival board, then at her phone, then at the crowd. Her lips moved slightly, like she was whispering a prayer. Finally, Officer Daniels reached her. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said in a firm voice. Sarah jumped. Her phone almost slipped from her hand. She turned to face him. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. "Why, yes," she said in a soft voice. Officer Daniels gave her a hard look. "Can I see your boarding pass and ID?" he asked. Sarah swallowed hard. I am not flying. I am just waiting for someone," she said. Officer Daniels narrowed his eyes. "Who are you waiting for?" he asked. Sarah looked down. "My husband," she said. Her voice was shaking. "Where is he coming from?" Officer Daniels asked. "From overseas," she said. Officer Daniels didn't believe her. She looked too scared, too nervous. He had seen people like this before, people hiding something. "I need you to come with me for a few questions," he said. Sarah's mouth opened slightly, like she wanted to say no. But she closed it again. She nodded slowly. The officer led her to a small private room near the security area. The room was cold and empty, just a table and 2 chairs. Sarah sat down, holding her handbag even tighter. Officer Daniels stood in front of her, arms crossed. "Why are you so nervous?" he asked. Sarah bit her lip. I'm scared of airports. They make me anxious," she said. The officer didn't smile. "Or maybe you are hiding something," he said. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. "I'm not hiding anything," she said. "I'm just waiting for my husband." Officer Daniels leaned closer. "What does your husband do?" he asked. Sarah hesitated. He works for the government," she said. The officer laughed a little. "Everyone says that when they are in trouble," he said. Sarah looked at him, her eyes shining with tears. "I am telling the truth," she whispered. Officer Daniels didn't believe her. He started checking her handbag. Sarah protested, but he ignored her. Nothing suspicious inside. Only a phone, a small notebook, and a photo of a man in a military uniform. The officer stared at the photo for a moment. "Who is this?" he asked. "My husband," Sarah said. "He is coming today. Please, I just want to see him." The officer felt a small doubt, but he pushed it away. "You still look too nervous," he said. At that moment, Sarah's phone buzzed. She jumped again. The screen showed. "Incoming call. James. Please, let me answer," Sarah begged. But Officer Daniels took the phone from her hand. "I will answer," he said coldly. He pressed the green button. "Hello," he said. There was a short silence. Then, a deep, commanding voice said, "Give the phone to Sarah. Right now." Officer Daniels froze. A strange feeling of fear passed through him. Who was this man? He looked at Sarah, who was now sitting very still, her eyes wide with fear. Or was it hope? Something was not right, and Officer Daniels was about to find out. The airport slowly returned to normal, but inside Officer Daniels, nothing felt normal anymore. He stood at the window for a long time, watching the military plane disappear into the sky. Sarah and her husband had left, together, stronger than ever. Daniels felt like he had been left behind with nothing but guilt and shame. His mind replayed everything. The way he had doubted her, the way he had spoken to her, the way she had cried. "What have I done?" he whispered to himself. His badge felt heavy on his chest, like a burden instead of a badge of honor. Other officers walked by, some giving him looks, some of pity, some of judgment. The news had already started spreading inside the airport. People knew what he had done. They knew he had humiliated a hero's wife. And worse, he had judged her without knowing her. Daniels ran a hand through his hair and sat down heavily on a bench. He didn't know how long he sat there. Minutes, maybe hours. His thoughts were heavy and painful. He had spent his whole career thinking he could read people, that he could spot liars and criminals easily. But today he had learned the hardest lesson. Not everything is visible on the surface. Some people carry silent battles. Some people carry invisible scars, and he had added to her pain. He couldn't forgive himself for that. Suddenly, a small voice broke through his thoughts. "Excuse me, Officer Daniels." Daniels looked up. It was a young airport worker, a boy barely out of his teens, holding out a small envelope. "This was left for you," the boy said, before walking away quickly. Daniels stared at the envelope. His name was written on it, in soft, careful handwriting. Slowly, with shaking fingers, he opened it. Inside was a small note. "Dear Officer Daniels, I forgive you. Not because you asked for it, but because I don't want to carry anger in my heart. Everyone makes mistakes. Today, you made yours. I hope it makes you a better man. Sarah Jameson." Daniels felt something break inside him. Tears filled his eyes. She had every right to hate him. She had every right to be angry. But instead, she gave him forgiveness, a gift he didn't deserve, a gift he would never forget. Daniels stood up, holding the note tightly in his hand. He looked around the airport, at all the people rushing, laughing, crying, wording. He realized he had a choice. He could stay the same man, or he could become better. Because of her, because of the woman he had wronged. That day, Officer Daniels made a silent promise: to listen better, to see deeper, to treat every person with the respect they deserved, no matter how they looked, no matter how nervous they seemed. Because heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear pain on their faces. Sometimes they sit quietly, holding on to hope. Sometimes they are simply a woman waiting for her husband to come home. And the world needed to be kinder to them. Daniels pinned the note inside his locker, a reminder every day when he put on his badge. Not just a cop, but a better man. Sarah walked through the airport like a queen, calm, graceful, and untouchable. The two Secret Service agents stayed close to her sides, their eyes scanning the crowd for any threat. People moved out of the way without needing to be told. They could feel it, the silent power she carried. Outside, the black car waited with its engine running. Another agent stood by the door, holding it open respectfully. Sarah paused for a second before getting in. She turned her head slowly, just enough to glance back at the airport building. Inside, behind the glass doors, Officer Daniels watched her go. His heart felt like a heavy stone. Guilt twisted inside him. He had treated her like dirt, without asking her real story, without seeing her pain. And now he knew. He had made the biggest mistake of his career. The agents helped Sarah into the car. They closed the door gently, like she was something precious. The car pulled away, tires moving smoothly over the airport road. The crowd watched silently, some still whispering. Inside the car, Sarah sat back against the leather seat. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling a tear slide down her cheek. 2 years. 2 long years she had waited for this day. 2 years of lonely nights. 2 years of praying he would come home safe. 2 years of dreaming about the moment she would see him again. And now, after everything, it almost didn't feel real. "Are you okay, ma'am?" one agent asked softly. Sarah opened her eyes and nodded. "I'm fine," she whispered. But deep down, her heart was racing. Because now, finally, she was going to see him. Her husband, her hero, the man who had survived war, betrayal, and danger, just to come back to her. The car turned into a private area of the airport, far from the crowds. Only special planes landed here, planes carrying presidents, kings, and heroes. Sarah's eyes searched the runway desperately. And then she saw it. A large military plane was parked at the end of the strip. The American flag shone brightly on its side. The ramp was down. Soldiers stood in perfect lines, standing stiff and proud. And there, at the top of the ramp, stood a tall man in uniform. Colonel James Jameson. Her James. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. He looked older than the last time she had seen him. More scars, more weight on his shoulders. But his smile, that same smile she had fallen in love with, was still there. The car stopped. The agent opened the door. "Go ahead, ma'am," he said with a warm smile. Sarah stepped out. For a moment, she stood still, the wind playing with her hair. Then, without thinking, she ran. She ran across the tarmac, past the soldiers, past the guards. She didn't care about rules, about protocol. She only cared about one thing, reaching him. James stepped down the ramp, his smile growing wider. And then, finally, they met. He caught her in his arms, lifting her off the ground as she burst into tears. He held her so tightly, it was like he never wanted to let go again. They stayed like that for a long moment. 2 broken souls finally finding peace. "I missed you," Sarah whispered against his chest. James kissed the top of her head. "I missed you more than anything," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Behind them, the soldiers respectfully looked away. Even the agents gave them their privacy. It was a reunion that was not just about love. It was about survival, about loyalty, about everything they had suffered and fought for. Back inside the airport, Officer Daniels was still standing by the window. He had seen it all. The way she ran, the way he lifted her, the way they held each other like the world had disappeared. And for the first time in years, Daniels felt a tear escape his eye. He realized something very important that day. Sometimes people are fighting battles we can't see. Sometimes strength isn't loud or obvious. Sometimes it's a woman standing alone at an airport, waiting for her hero to come home. And he had failed her. He had judged her. He had humiliated her. Officer Daniels knew he would carry that regret forever. Because not all mistakes can be fixed, and not all apologies are enough. Officer Daniels stood frozen for a moment. The words "Secret Service" echoed in his ears. His mouth went dry. He quickly looked at Sarah again. She sat very still, like she was waiting. Not scared anymore, but calm, strong. The photo of her husband was still clutched tightly in her hand. Outside the room, the airport had suddenly changed. The usual noise of passengers had lowered. People were staring toward the entrance. A black car had pulled up right in front of the airport doors. It was a big car, shiny, with dark-tinted windows. The license plate was official, something only government cars had. Before anyone could react, the doors opened and 3 men stepped out. They wore black suits, dark glasses, and earpieces in their ears. Their faces were serious, almost cold. They moved quickly, walking into the airport like they owned the place. They didn't stop for anyone. Their jackets moved slightly, showing weapons underneath. People stepped back, whispering. Some pulled out their phones to take pictures, But one hard look from the agents made them put the phones away. These men meant business. Inside the small questioning room, Daniels tried to pull himself together. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding, he told himself. Maybe she is lying. Maybe it's not about her. But deep down, fear was growing inside him. A voice came over his radio. "Officer Daniels, stand by. Secret Service agents are requesting immediate access to your room." Daniels' hand shook slightly as he pressed the button. Copy that," he replied. He looked at Sarah again. She sat there quietly, wiping the last of her tears. But her face was different now, calm, almost proud. For the first time since he met her, Officer Daniels realized. This woman was not afraid of him. Not anymore. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. They were getting closer. Every step sounded louder, like drums of judgment. Then, a knock at the door. 3 sharp knocks. Before Daniels could say anything, the door swung open. 2 Secret Service agents entered. They were tall, serious, and dressed sharply. One of them, a man with short black hair and a tight jawline, spoke first. "Who is in charge here?" he demanded. Daniels stepped forward, trying to sound confident. "I am Officer Daniels. What seems to be the problem?" The agent didn't waste time. He held up a badge, shiny and official. "You have detained the wife of a highly protected government official," he said. Daniels felt like the ground under him shifted. "Tell you wife," he stammered. The agent nodded sharply. "Sarah Jameson, wife of Colonel James Jameson, decorated war hero, advisor to the Department of Defense." Daniels' heart dropped. Sarah quietly stood up behind him. She held her photo in her hand, standing straight and proud. The agent turned to her and nodded respectfully. "Ma'am, we are here to escort you," he said. Sarah smiled softly, a sad smile, and walked toward the agents. Daniels tried to say something, but the words stuck in his throat. He had treated her like a criminal. He had humiliated her, searched her, made her cry. And now he realized she was someone much bigger than he ever imagined. Not because of her husband's title, not because of her connections, but because of her own quiet strength. Sarah stopped at the door. She turned and looked at Daniels. Her eyes were calm, but there was a sadness in them, a disappointment deeper than anger. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Her look said everything. "You judged me without knowing me." The Secret Service agents led her out of the room. The hallway was full of people watching. Airport staff, passengers, security guards. Everyone moved aside respectfully as Sarah walked through, her head held high. Daniels stood alone in the small room, feeling smaller than he ever had in his life. He heard whispers growing louder around him. "That's her. The colonel's wife. They treated her like a suspect. How could they make such a mistake?" Daniels closed the door slowly. His hands were shaking. His career, his pride, his heart, all felt broken at that moment. And deep inside, he knew. He would never forget the woman he crossed at the airport, and the way her dignity crushed him without a single word. Weeks passed since that unforgettable day at the airport. The world outside moved on quickly. Busy flights, rushing passengers, new faces every hour. But inside Officer Daniels, something had changed forever. Every morning when he wore his uniform, he paused. He touched the note pinned carefully inside his locker. Sarah Jameson's note. It reminded him of the silent battles people fight, the unseen struggles hidden behind ordinary faces. He became a different man, a different officer. He no longer rushed to judge. He took time to listen. He took time to care. Other officers noticed the change too. "Daniels, you've become softer," one joked. "No," Daniels replied quietly. "I'd just become wiser." At night, Daniels often sat alone, thinking about Sarah. He wondered where she was now. Was she happy? Was she finally living the peaceful life she had waited so long for? He prayed she was, because she deserved it, after all she had suffered, after all she had forgiven. One rainy evening, Daniels finished his shift and decided to take a walk outside the airport. The rain was soft, almost like a gentle reminder from the sky. As he walked, he noticed an old man struggling with heavy bags. Without thinking, Daniels hurried over and helped him. "Thank you, son," the man said with a warm smile. Daniels smiled back. "No problem, sir," he said. Small acts, small kindnesses, they mattered. They made a difference. He understood now. True strength wasn't shown by power or guns or authority. True strength was shown by kindness, by patience, by the ability to see others' pain, even when they didn't speak it. Daniels decided he would spend the rest of his career living by that truth. One life at a time, one heart at a time. Sometimes, when he sat alone, he would close his eyes and see Sarah's face, strong, tired, but full of quiet dignity. He would hear her silent message again. Everyone makes mistakes, but not everyone chooses to grow from them. And he would promise himself once more, he would never make the same mistake again. Not because he was afraid of punishment, but because he had seen the cost of hurting someone who had already suffered enough. Because he had crossed the wrong woman once, and she had taught him the right way to be a better man. Final scene. One bright morning, a young woman at the airport stood nervously in a line. She looked worried, clutching a letter to her chest. Daniels noticed her immediately. He walked over, smiled kindly, and said, "Is everything okay, ma'am? Can I help you with anything?" The woman looked up, surprised by the kindness in his voice. Tears filled her eyes. "Yes, please," she whispered. "I'm just overwhelmed." Daniels nodded. "Take your time. You're safe here," he said gently. And as he guided her through the airport, patient and respectful, he knew somewhere, wherever she was, Sarah Jameson would be smiling, because the lesson she had given him was alive. And it was being passed on. One person, one heart, one small act of kindness at a time. Officer Daniels stood frozen for a moment. The words "Secret Service" echoed in his ears. His mouth went dry. He quickly looked at Sarah again. She sat very still, like she was waiting. Not scared anymore, but calm, strong. The photo of her husband was still clutched tightly in her hand. Outside the room, the airport had suddenly changed. The usual noise of passengers had lowered. People were staring toward the entrance. A black car had pulled up right in front of the airport doors. It was a big car, shiny, with dark-tinted windows. The license plate was official, something only government cars had. Before anyone could react, the doors opened and 3 men stepped out. They wore black suits, dark glasses, and earpieces in their ears. Their faces were serious, almost cold. They moved quickly, walking into the airport like they owned the place. They didn't stop for anyone. Their jackets moved slightly, showing weapons underneath. People stepped back, whispering. Some pulled out their phones to take pictures, but one hard look from the agents made them put the phones away. These men meant business. Inside the small questioning room, Daniels tried to pull himself together. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding, he told himself. Maybe she is lying. Maybe it's not about her. But deep down, fear was growing inside him. A voice came over his radio. "Officer Daniels, stand by. Secret Service agents are requesting immediate access to your room." Daniels' hands shook slightly as he pressed the button. Copy that," he replied. He looked at Sarah again. She sat there quietly, wiping the last of her tears. But her face was different now, calm, almost proud. For the first time since he met her, Officer Daniels realized. This woman was not afraid of him. Not anymore. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. They were getting closer. Every step sounded louder, like drums of judgment. Then, a knock at the door. 3 sharp knocks. Before Daniels could say anything, the door swung open. 2 Secret Service agents entered. They were tall, serious, and dressed sharply. One of them, a man with short black hair and a tight jawline, spoke first. "Who is in charge here?" he demanded. Daniels stepped forward, trying to sound confident. "I am Officer Daniels. What seems to be the problem?" The agent didn't waste time. He held up a badge, shiny and official. "You have detained the wife of a highly protected government official," he said. Daniels felt like the ground under him shifted. "W wife," he stammered. The agent nodded sharply. "Sarah Jameson, wife of Colonel James Jameson, decorated war hero, advisor to the Department of Defense." Daniel's heart dropped. Sarah quietly stood up behind him. She held her photo in her hand, standing straight and proud. The agent turned to her and nodded respectfully. "Ma'am, we are here to escort you," he said. Sarah smiled softly, a sad smile, and walked toward the agents. Daniels tried to say something, but the words stuck in his throat. He had treated her like a criminal. He had humiliated her, searched her, made her cry. And now he realized she was someone much bigger than he ever imagined. Not because of her husband's title, not because of her connections, but because of her own quiet strength. Sarah stopped at the door. She turned and looked at Daniels. Her eyes were calm, but there was a sadness in them, a disappointment deeper than anger. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Her look said everything. "You judged me without knowing me." The Secret Service agents led her out of the room. The hallway was full of people watching. Airport staff, passengers, security guards. Everyone moved aside respectfully as Sarah walked through, her head held high. Daniels stood alone in the small room, feeling smaller than he ever had in his life. He heard whispers growing louder around him. "That's her, the colonel's wife. They treated her like a suspect. How could they make such a mistake?" Daniels closed the door slowly. His hands were shaking. His career, his pride, his heart, all felt broken at that moment. And deep inside, he knew. He would never forget the woman he crossed at the airport, and the way her dignity crushed him without a single word. Months had passed since Officer Daniels changed his ways. His reputation at the airport had transformed completely. People respected him, not for being the strictest officer, but for being the kindest. The man who once rushed to judge now became the man who listened first and acted with heart. One chilly autumn evening, Daniels finished his late shift and walked toward the airport cafe for a coffee. The sun was setting outside the large glass windows, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and purple. As he sipped his coffee, he thought again about Sarah, and the day everything changed for him. "Wherever she is, I hope she's happy," he thought. Just then, the cafe door opened, and a woman entered, carrying a small boy in her arms. The boy was tired, rubbing his eyes, clutching a small toy soldier in his hand. Daniels noticed immediately, not because they seemed out of place, but because the woman looked overwhelmed, tired, and lost. He stood up and approached her gently. "Ma'am, do you need help?" he asked, his voice soft and friendly. The woman looked up at him with grateful eyes. "I'm trying to find the military shuttle bus," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "My husband's plane just landed. He's coming home from deployment." Daniels felt his chest tighten. Memories of Sarah, standing alone and desperate, flooded back into his mind. He smiled warmly. "You're very lucky," he said gently. "And he's lucky too, to come home to someone waiting for him." The woman smiled, tears gathering in her eyes. Daniels personally walked them to the military reception area, carrying her heavy bags, chatting softly with the little boy about superheroes and brave soldiers. When they reached, she turned to him. "Thank you," she said. "Most people just walk past. But you cared." Daniels simply nodded. "Someone once taught me," he said quietly, "that small kindness can change someone's whole world." The woman smiled even wider and disappeared into the crowd, her son waving goodbye with his tiny hand. Daniels watched them go, feeling something warm settle in his heart. It was a simple moment, just helping a tired woman and her child. But it mattered. Because acts of kindness echo. They ripple out into the world, touching lives in ways we never fully see. Another surprise. Later that night, as Daniels put his things away, he noticed an envelope pinned to his locker door. He frowned. It looked familiar. Inside was a simple card. A picture of a smiling family. Sarah, her husband James, and 2 young children standing in a sunny garden. On the back, a handwritten note. Dear Officer Daniels, I wanted you to know that we are happy. James is healing. I am healing too. And you are part of that healing. You chose kindness when it was hardest. Never forget how powerful that choice is. With gratitude, Sarah Jameson. Daniel sat down on the bench, holding the card with trembling hands. Tears filled his eyes, but this time they were not tears of shame or regret. They were tears of pride. He had not only redeemed himself, he had made a difference. A real, lasting difference. The final thought. As Daniels left the locker room, he looked around at the busy airport once more. People rushing. Families crying and laughing. Soldiers returning. Mothers waiting. Children hoping. Every face carried a story. Every heart carried a battle. And Daniels knew now. Kindness wasn't just a nice thing. It was a responsibility. It was a duty, just as real as wearing a badge. He smiled softly to himself, touching the card one last time before sliding it carefully into his wallet, carrying it close to his heart. Because heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes, heroes are simply the ones who choose kindness, even when no one is watching. Officer Daniels felt a strange chill after hearing the voice on the phone. It was not the kind of voice that could be ignored. It was calm, strong, and full of authority. But Daniels was stubborn. He had been a cop for 15 years. He had seen hundreds of people lie to him with straight faces. He had seen criminals cry and beg for mercy. He thought Sarah was just another one of them. He ended the call without saying a word. Sarah gasped. "Please, sir, that was my husband," she cried. But Officer Daniels was already angry. "Enough games," he snapped. "Who are you really? Why are you acting so strange?" Sarah shook her head desperately. "I told you the truth. I am just here to meet my husband. He's coming home today." Officer Daniels pulled a chair and sat across from her. He slammed a file on the table, even though there was nothing inside. It was just for show, to scare her. "You know what happens when people lie at airports," he said. "They go to jail. They miss their flights. They get banned." Sarah's hands trembled. "I am not lying," she whispered. Her voice broke halfway through. Officer Daniels didn't soften. He leaned closer. "Where are you from? Show me your documents," he barked. Sarah fumbled in her bag and pulled out her ID. It was clean. American citizen. No criminal record. Daniels tossed it aside without even looking properly. "Anybody can make a fake ID," he muttered. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes, but she tried to stay strong. She pressed her hands together tightly in her lap. "My husband, he told me to wait here. I'm not doing anything wrong." Officer Daniels wasn't convinced. "Then why were you so nervous?" he shot back. "People who have nothing to hide don't act like you." Sarah wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "I get nervous at airports," she said in a shaking voice. "The crowds, the noise. It makes me panic." But the officer didn't listen. He only saw what he wanted to see. A scared woman who must be guilty of something. "Maybe you're carrying something," he said coldly. Sarah's face turned pale. "No, please, I'm not," she cried. Without asking her permission, Daniels grabbed her small handbag again. He dumped everything onto the table. A small notebook fell out, along with some tissues, a bottle of medicine, and a worn-out photo. The same photo he had seen earlier. It showed Sarah with a tall man in a military uniform. They were smiling. They looked happy. Daniels picked up the photo again. "Is this another lie?" he asked roughly. Sarah's hands shook as she reached for the photo. "No," she said, almost pleading. "That's James, my husband. He's been away for 2 years. He was serving overseas." Daniels raised an eyebrow. "Military, huh? That's what everybody says when they want sympathy," he said cruelly. Sarah hugged the photo to her chest. She looked broken, but she still didn't raise her voice. She didn't fight back. She just sat there like a small bird trapped in a storm. Daniels stood up and started pacing. "You think you can fool me by crying," he said. "I've seen better actresses than you." Sarah stayed silent. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her heart was pounding so loudly she could barely hear the airport noise outside. Inside her mind, she kept repeating one thing: "James is coming. Just hold on. James is coming." Officer Daniels finally stopped and glared at her. "You better start telling me the truth, Mom," he said. "Because if you don't, things are going to get a lot worse for you." Sarah closed her eyes for a second. She felt so tired, so helpless. All she had wanted was to welcome her husband home. Instead, she was now treated like a criminal. Suddenly, the door burst open. Another officer rushed in. "Daniels, you need to see this," he said, holding up a radio. "What?" Daniels asked, annoyed. "A black car just arrived outside. Government plates. And Secret Service agents are here," the young officer said, breathing hard. Daniels froze. "Secret Service," he repeated. The young officer nodded. "They are asking for a woman named Sarah. They say she is the wife of someone very important." Daniels slowly turned to look at Sarah. She sat quietly, hugging the photo, tears on her cheeks, but a strange calm in her eyes now. For the first time, a small doubt entered Daniels' mind. Had he made a huge mistake? Before he could say anything, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Strong, heavy, confident footsteps. And then the door handle turned. Someone very important was about to walk in. And Officer Daniels' world was about to change forever.